What's up, guys? I'm Aisha Thomas, your leadership and team development expert, and I'm so happy that you made it to episode 5 of this series, You Need Leadership Development. And in this series, I've been giving you strategies and tools to identify some areas that are very important that leaders pay attention to, from self-leadership to building a team, retaining a team. And today we're going to talk about when you lose team members. You definitely need leadership development in that time. Because like I always say, team members don't typically quit the organization. They typically quit the leader, and that's why you need leadership development. Now let's get into it. And if you haven't watched the rest of those videos, watch them, because the goal is to prevent this from happening. And that's why each step is so important, because the reality is there are some organizations, some corporations, some businesses where the retention rate is really low. It's hard to retain people, and we want to get it to the point where we are keeping those great talented team members to support those missions and visions that you have. So let's get into it. So what do you want to do if you see and find that you have a retention issue within the business that you own or the organization that you manage in or lead in? You want to first re-strategize. It's so important. That is your first step, because you have to look into the strategies that you currently have in place and maybe revamp some things so you are retaining those talented individuals and coming up with strategies to also identify the why behind it. So for me, one of the roles I play as I serve in the military is as a career advisor. And as a career advisor, I manage that retention piece. I find out what are the current trends, why an individual is leaving. I even have in place an exit survey so individuals can take it, so we can find out, okay, what was your experience here? Did you get the information that you need? Did you get the support you needed here with your leadership team? How was the climate internally? So it's so important that you come up with strategies to identify the why behind this retention issue exists, and also find out what kind of remedies and solutions you can find so you can identify the issue and also resolve that issue. So make sure you're looking at the strategies that you have, if you have any in place, and if not, creating strategies to identify the reason and to remedy that issue. The next step is really starting to get that feedback. So I just mentioned to you that in my role, that is what I do. I collect the feedback. I identify the why behind it. Well, in order to do that, you need to be able to collect feedback. So there's some organizations I've been in the past where they had an exit survey or exit interview, but it wasn't really part of the process. When I say it wasn't a part of the process, people were still leaving and not doing the survey or not sitting down and doing the interview. So yes, the process was there, but no one was really ensuring that it was being followed through. So it's so important that that is something that you 100% say that we have to make sure that after or as each body leaves and separates from this corporation, this organization, your business, you're finding out the why behind it. Get the feedback. What was their experience like, good or bad? What areas could maybe need some improvement? What leader might be the individual that needs some guidance and support? Because it could be a trend, again, because of the leader, because individuals typically quit the leader. And I've seen reports that I've received that, yes, it's been a great experience. I love everyone I work with. However, the leader is X, Y, and Z. So it's so important that we're getting that feedback to identify those main pain points to address it, so it can also help us in the area of re-strategizing. So make time to get feedback from your team members on a regular basis, even while they're there, but definitely as they depart, because you might be able to find that specific reason and start to see those trends to, again, identify those solutions. So make sure you are re-strategizing and collecting feedback. The next area that you want to focus on after you have re-strategized, after you have collected feedback, is now you can identify the gaps and then fill the gaps. Come up with those solutions to resolve those issues. Just imagine if a structure was being built and come to find out there's a key piece within that structure that was missing. And you're being told that if it's not fixed, it's going to affect the longevity of that building lasting. Well, of course, you're going to probably identify, like, how did this happen? But essentially, you want to get that problem fixed, or that building will not last that long. That's the same thing with that gap. We want to make sure we're identifying what these retention issues are, because it could actually break down the climate, the motivation. Essentially, that will fall into the productivity, revenue, client experience, and soon you might find yourself out of a business, no longer functioning effectively. So we want to make sure that we fill those gaps and come up with, again, those solutions. You're going to hear me say solutions a lot. That's why this part of the process is so important, because you want to fill the gaps once you identify what they are. So take time, connect with your leadership team, come up with some ideas, and really start working on those solutions and resolutions, even if you have to bring in additional experts to help you in filling those gaps. And then the final aspect that you want to make sure, which you will also collect within the feedback session, and once you are really digging deep to identify the issue, is the climate. Now that you've identified all these issues, making sure moving forward that the climate, the workspace climate, is healthy is going to be so important. Because if this retention issue has been long lasting, just imagine what that workplace climate is like. What is the culture? Is there a lack of trust? How are you going to rebuild that? You're going to have to really remedy the climate and get the team members trusting again, believing in the mission again. So that might take time, but essentially, as they're seeing that you're asking the questions, you're getting the feedback, because you don't want to just get feedback from individuals that's left. You want to also look into getting feedback from people who are there, especially if you identify that it's a specific section or organization or a team that you're seeing a lot of those retention issues. So get that feedback also from the individuals that are there that have decided to stay, so they don't leave. But essentially, it's now remedying and working on solutions to fix that climate, because if a workspace climate is not good, you're going to continue to see that cycle. So you want to make sure that you break that cycle. And I even mentioned that sometimes you have to go all the way back to episode 1 and start off with self-leadership, because if it's you that is the common denominator, okay, what is it that you need to work on within yourself? What kind of team building process needs to happen that you need to go back to and say, you know what, let's re-strategize on how we build our team, because maybe we aren't effective in this area, or even in the retaining the team process. So sometimes you have to go all the way back to the beginning and really identify and work through those areas in order for you not to end up in this space, because we don't want to lose team members. Individuals are going to maybe transition at some point, go to another great opportunity that's going to be beneficial for them. We don't want them to leave because of the leader. We don't want them to leave because of the organization. We want them to leave and depart for good reasons. So it's going to be so important that you've lost team members, that you work through this process to re-strategize, collect feedback, fill those gaps, and make sure that climate is rejuvenated so it's healthy again. And again, if you have to go all the way back from phase 1 to that self-leadership process, start there and continue to work so you don't have to worry about losses and you don't have that revenue issue, because retention can affect your revenue. Retention can affect so many different areas in your business, in your organization. So make sure you take this process to heart, apply it as soon as possible, and really start working through becoming a more effective organization or business. Because remember, individuals don't typically quit the organization, they typically quit the leader, and that's why you need leadership development. Thank you for tuning in.